Welcome again to another episode of our show where I, your host and greatest person ever, am joined with today the boy wonder and the source for Lady Gaga's hit song Alejandro. Hey guys, how's it going?
And Zach.
Hey, Paul.
Oh yeah, I said the boy wonder. So
Yeah.
yeah, his name is Zach though.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Zach, this might be the second time in the world I've ever seen you on video. The first being the behind the statics video.
From like 2 years ago.
Right, because you weren't
That
here
got
the last time I was on video.
No, I wasn't. And the last time you were the creepy Team Fortress 2 the documentary
shadowy silhouette.
Yes.
And then he was here when you were in the middle of a hurricane.
Yes, which I was obviously a little bit absent for.
So yeah.
So hey guys, well, what have y'all been doing today? What in general this past week? Y'all having fun, enjoying yourselves, playing anything?
Playing a bunch of stuff, but what about you, Zach?
So, 2 weeks ago, I beat Kana, and then you guys said, "Oh, we'll beat it too, so we can talk about the boss fight at the end."
Oops.
And then you guys never did.
I'm so close to it. I pushed through. I'm on the last area right now where you got your spirit dash, and I'm working through it. And boy, is it emotional. And unfortunately, I couldn't finish it before like midnight last night, and I was just like, I can't.
Just to give context where I'm at this candle puzzle that I just beat. The one where you have to see where you have to shoot the arrows for. I think you guys mentioned it.
Can you believe this guy?
That's like I haven't played Kena at all. So since then.
Fake fan. We got a fake fan over here, guys.
I've been playing other stuff. I've been trying to save it and savor it. I've always been saying that, but yeah, but Zach did blast through it, so have the floor. What do you think of the full Kena experience?
In general, I absolutely love the game. My experience was I played on the hardest difficulty available at start because I thought I was a pro gamer. And let me tell you something. When you start on the highest difficulty, at the very beginning of Kana, you think you made the right choice because you're going through those low-level enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the first mini-boss fight. And you start to realize, maybe I've made a mistake. Because when you get to those mini-bosses, you realize they can one-hit your shield. The parry window is very, very tiny.
Always a problem with that.
And you don't do as much damage to them as you do the little enemies. And then once you beat the mini-boss, they become the regular enemies. And you just have to fight them in the world. But I made it all the way to the final boss fight on that difficulty. And that's when I had to stop and I had to lower the difficulty because that last boss fight was just brutal on me.
Yeah, is there a trophy to beat it in the hardest difficulty? Because that would incentivize me. Or
for the hardest difficulty you unlock after you beat the game.
Oh shoot!
Oof! Yikes! And I would say that even playing a normal, there's been some enemies. There was one that you go down a slope. You had just gotten the bow, and then you fight that enemy that was kind of kicking me. I was like, oh okay.
Oh yeah.
This is not as easy as it made it seem. This is not like Dark Souls Light. This is straight up Dark Souls at this point. and the thing is that there's this game designer that I follow, David Jaffe. He created God of War and the Twisted Metal series. He's very he doesn't care about offending people or saying his opinion. He said that he loved Keenan when he reached those boss fights. He despised the game and he played it normal.
Oh, no.
So it's like, oh, yikes.
So I would say that maybe they could have done something slightly better with balancing it, because the whole idea of hard difficulties, you want the people playing the game to know where they're at with that experience. If it's really easy for solid 5 hours and then all of a sudden it gets the hardest thing in the world, then I feel like that is a bit of a failure from game design standing. But what do y'all think?
Possibly.
Yeah, I agree with you, because at the very beginning of the game I thought, oh, I need a harder difficulty for this. And that wasn't the case after a while. I was too committed to that difficulty at that point.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem.
You know, a game for me that I think slopes the difficulty well, and especially That's the good thing of not tying any trophy progression to this difficulty is God of War. If you play God of War and it's hard difficulty before they give me God of War super ultra hard, when you're wailing at enemies, it's like it's such tiny minuscule damage that you're doing that it's just not fun.
Yeah.
But then when you get stronger and you get better armor and all that, in normal the enemies start feeling weaker. So then you can incentivize yourself to push it up to hard now. And now the enemies with your current power level now feel like a normal. I kind of did that in my first playthrough, and it was very rewarding. But it also has to be said, what about the people that want to just play it on hard from the get-go? If you're just constantly wailing and the health is just going slow, the stagger meter is not going hard. I'll have something to say about a certain game that does something similar soon, because I'm here to roast someone. And yeah, there's something to be said, because you can just try to get sometimes the difficulty just not right enough at an initial impression. So I think it's valid.
I think you actually bring something up that I think should be more common, and that is switching difficulties on the fly. I think people hype up the idea of, if you've picked a high difficulty and you realize that it's difficult, that they feel like they have to suffer, or they suffer some kind of weird shame in the gaming industry. Even if they don't tell anybody, they feel like they've failed. And I know I felt like that before with a lot of situations. Even Skyrim is one of the first instances of that, where like you're just not equipped to deal with some enemies, like the dragons, and
or the bears,
or the bears, or the Yeti that like heals himself unless you have fire magic. And it's just it's like you're not really prepared, and you're not prepared through the eyes of the game developer until a certain point. Or and then you say on the other side, where you're just way in over your head from the start. Like I started God of War on the hard setting, and I died about 10 times on the first enemy, and I just couldn't touch him because I think you die in one hit, maybe two. And I had to just immediately bring down the difficulty again, realize that I wasn't going to enjoy myself if I tried pushing through at that difficulty. So
and was that the first time you tried to play through that game? Like did you immediately put it on hard?
No, I started off on normal and was like, okay, I get the idea, I've got this. And then I bumped it up to hard, and then I struggled. It was there was a point where like the big heavy dude shows up for the first time. That was where I had it at hard.
The troll?
Not him. It was like just a random it was like a heavier enemy than like the small skeleton dudes, but
it's
not
like the ones that have like a big hammer are kind of like little bulkier.
Yeah, they're just like a little they didn't skip arm day basically. But and they would kind of dash at you, and I just couldn't.
Ironically, you have to hit those with you have to like drop swords, pull up your arms, and then just go at him. That's the way to beat them in hard, because it's all about the stagger.
Now. But I guess I didn't understand how vastly the strategy needs to change on harder difficulties in that, which I appreciate. I wasn't in that right mindset at the time, and I died about 20 times that dude, and I realized I had to bring the difficulty down, and I wasn't having fun.
So Zach, other than Kena, do you play anything else?
Yeah, I've been playing Bowser's Fury finally.
Hey.
Yes, the add-on for Super Mario 3D World that came out in February for everyone. Just a reminder of something that came out earlier this year. Go for it.
Yeah, it's my first 3D Mario World game. The last Mario game I played was Odyssey, and I was a little disappointed of starting this game, just how different mechanically it is from Odyssey. I really miss that triple jump you do, that Mario's iconic boing 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 woohoo flip thing.
Yeah, the triple jump, that's classic since Mario 64 onwards, Sunshine, even Galaxy.
I love it.
As much as I love Astrobot, I think Mario's triple jump is the best thing in any platforming game. Oh, and absolutely. I was super disappointed to see that not in Bowser's Fury.
Because it wasn't in 3D World. They just literally took all the mechanics from 3D World, which is more fixed, and transposed it in a 3D environment. Yeah.
And then I also really suck at aiming in 3D World with the fireballs and the boomerangs. I never hit the enemy I want to, so I just jump on them every time.
Like trying to get the diagonal.
Yeah.
And it just goes.
I don't know if I've ever actually played 3D World, honestly.
You didn't have a Wii U, right? Yeah, you didn't have a Wii U, right?
Right, but didn't they eventually release that on the Switch?
That's what came out this year, on February.
Oh wait, I probably own that then.
And
Okay, so I have played it. I remember I tried it with my wife, and we had a time of it because, for whatever reason, most games now they understand that if you bump into each other, that's a negative thing. So they just kind of let you pass through each other. That is not a thing in Mario 3D World,
no, nope.
and we have killed each other so many times because one of us moves way faster than the other one gets trapped, we die, the other one dies because they're too eager, or we're trying to like run back and forth and we keep jumping at the same time and hitting each other or bouncing off each other's heads. It's a nightmare.
It's literally the new Super Mario Bros. Mentality, because you can also keep trolling your co-op people, just jumping on top of each other, and that one's fun because then they become the bubble that kind of follows you, and then you can be a jerk and just not jump on that bubble.
And it's difficult. I remember a time where I died and she literally couldn't get to my bubble because it just kind of floats randomly. Even if you try hitting the A button to like bring it over to it, it wasn't agreeing. She tried to jump for it and then died in the process of jumping to me. So it was amazing. It was terrible. But I hope that they continue doing stuff like that. Like Odyssey, they tried doing a little co-op thing where it's like, oh, he's the hat and then you're Mario. But then
Galaxy did the same thing. You're Mario and then the other one's the cursor.
I don't even really count that as co-op. Like that's not really playing the game.
Yeah.
That's just insulting to the second player.
Exactly. They're like, oh, you mean you want to play the game and your 3-year-old wants to play.
Yeah.
And then that's more like co-op.
Almost as insulting as showing a cutscene you've never seen for the first time and you're only in a loading screen. Only the first player gets to see it due to a glitch.
That was crazy. I was honestly expecting that to be like what their solution was to it, because they're like, oh no, you can't actually play through the first mission, so we'll just leave them at the loading screen.
Yes.
Let the other
We'll talk about later what that was. Zach, anything else other than Bowser Fury and Kina?
Not yet. I started out playing this new Stranded Deep, Below Zero, I think it's called, but I haven't done anything of interest there yet.
That one. That's
it's like
it's not like Subnautica, right?
But it's
Subnautica. Not Stranded Deep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I didn't know they made a DLC for that. Anyway, what are you thinking about it, Zach?
I'm excited. I really enjoyed the first Subnautica. Getting at the beginning of the game again and realizing I don't have all the stuff that made me enjoy the first Subnautica anymore.
Oh no,
is a challenge. And the recipes changed all a little bit, so I don't have as much knowledge as I had at the beginning of Subnautica. But I'm excited to get back into it because, unlike you guys, I'm not afraid of the ocean.
Yeah, you have that. I can't with deep sea stuff.
What did they actually change about it, Zach? Is it like you started over and it's the same game plus other things in a new area, or is it like a standalone DLC? How do they do it?
It's its own game so far. I think you're even on a different planet with similar creatures, but it's a frozen area, so there's actually a lot of land that you can climb up that's ice, and there's penguins now, so that's fun.
Do they try to kill you too, or are they good?
They don't try to kill you, but I think they can kill you if you mess with them.
Okay. All right.
Don't mess with the penguins.
Mario 64 revenge, finally.
Oh man,
that's awesome though. One day, I swear, one day I'll build up the courage to mess with it. Part of it is not just fear, because I know if I force myself I could, but I also want to play things that I like genuinely enjoy. And with so many games out now, I'm just like, I could play something else with this. I could do something different. I could play Castlevania. I could just sit there at Destiny 2 while I just sit on my phone for 15 minutes and forget that I was playing the game. It's a terrible life I live, you know. First world problems.
So speaking of that, Paul, now what have you been playing? I'm gonna go last.
I've been playing 5 things this week that I wrote down. Well, okay, so 6, but sort of 5. Anyway, the first one that was that little 6th is what I played with Alejandro, which was we finished Halo 1 Combat Evolved. That was an experience, and you can see that on our YouTube channel now. Unfortunately, I muted myself throughout about 3/4 of the the video. I checked it today, and it really hurt my soul realizing that none of my stuff was coming through.
Especially because we had so much funny quips.
I had
in
comedy
in
gold
that.
going.
When we were going through the library and the mission afterwards, man. And then I see Zach Zach joins us, and then he's like, "Is Paul's mic wrong?" I was like, "No, I've been talking." And I was like, "Oh no." Because you have to, because when you start streaming and you're in party chat on Xbox, it pops at the bottom that you start a party chat, and you have to press to see if you want to allow your audio in. And we did that in the first two, but he forgot in this one.
Yeah,
total
because you have
dad
to
moment.
manually know to hit the Xbox button and then go in to do that each time. And I just forgot because we were so excited about recording. But anyway, we did that, and we started the first mission of Halo 2. So that was really fun. And then all of last night, I worked on a new Photoshop piece on our next series, which I took the same ethos of what we were going for. I took, in the first one, it was The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, and this one is Boondock Saints. So
because PJ's reading us for Halo 3, you gotta do it. You gotta find a three-person thing for that.
Maybe I'll do like Matrix Revolutions.
That'd be it's actually in Reloaded is where all three of them are.
Yeah, so. That's the one. Oh yeah, Reloaded, not Revolutions. So maybe I'll do that one, but we'll see. Besides that, I finished Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Metroidvanias are starting to click with me a little bit more now, especially with their magic system in that game is really cool. And I talked to you about it once, where you kind of have two tiers, and as you switch whatever your power is, it kind of does something slightly different. And all the fun is in experimenting with what they can all do. You can get anything from like a flaming sword to vine whips to like punching fists. You can even do like a move where you hold it down and draw your sword like a samurai, and it does more damage based on how long you hold the button. So it's like there's a lot of stuff you can kind of do in that game. And so I enjoyed it. Startup Harmony of Dissonance is very different. They like use a different engine for it or something, but it felt weird. Be a lot more Symphony of the Night, where you have like a dash forward, a dash backward, a lot more of the weird echoey moves as he flows around. But yeah, so did that. Alejandro and I played the Battlefield 2042 beta, which we'll talk about.
Oh yeah, I got things to say, but keep moving.
And then the last thing that I got was oh no, I also played Hell Let Loose, the game that we got for free. I forgot to write that in. And then Insurgency Sandstorm, which I do want to have a couple of words on that later. But let's jump into the next discussion topic with this. Alejandro, you played Battlefield as well, didn't you?
I sure did, and I recorded many clips.
Did you?
About my experience there. I posted one because it was the funniest one.
Oh boy.
DICE, EA, I beg you, please, delay this thing. Please, just take it out of this year. You have a core of a good product there. I can see the potential. I can see the hard work. But this thing is not ready. Battlefield 2042 is a broken piece of shit. Let's just call it out this way. It's like, it strobes light, like the light, it strobes so much, like this weird white thing. If someone has epilepsy issues, I bet you they're gonna get epilepsy. Some of the texture world, it's like you can kind of see the code morphing as you're kind of running around. The rubber banding, I sometimes experience dropping from my from because you can always spawn from the top, like falling from a parachute if you decide to spawn in one of the planes, and seeing you kind of being like this over and over, almost feeling like, oh, hopefully this glitching is preventing me from all the people that are shooting me at the top and not hitting me. No, it still hits you. You're just having to deal with the strobe light effect of all of that's happening. The frame rate is all over the place. It feels at times that it's running well, and then it just tanks. And I'm playing on a PlayStation 5. It's I was so excited for Battlefield to make a comeback, to be now in a year where Call of Duty seems very muted. Like, you don't see any, even from the most diehard of fanboys, you don't even see the like the excitement for it. It's like a mild shrug. Everyone just rather play Warzone in that community. So it's like you had your opening here. Like, you had the time finally to stick the knife that you couldn't back in Battlefield 4 when Ghost was very not well received. And you're literally about to walk into the same minefield by releasing something that in no way, shape, or form is ready. And I immediately deleted it after I sent you guys the clip. I was like, nah, I can't do this. This is just too much. And EA has been doing good this year. Out of the 3 publishers we talk about, Activision is in litigation nightmare. I told Ubisoft to go fuck itself yesterday in our
you did.
in our news section. And EA has been the one that's been like, okay, they're doing stuff. They're bringing back Dead Space. They released It Takes Two, Rocket. What was
Rocket Arena?
I don't think it was Rocket Arena. It's Knockout City. It's like all these games are highly beloved, and if they release this, they're gonna just tank all the goodwill, because you're not, especially in a time where you're gonna have a Call of Duty game that for some reason its beta wasn't busted. I played that beta. It was like, yeah, this works. So it's going.
It did surprisingly play well, honestly.
Because
despite it not being like anything super great, it was like, okay,
it's using the Modern Warfare 2019 engine. So it's like, at the very least in movement, that's more solid than the Black Ops engine. So, and it's gonna be fully featured. It's gonna have its zombies. It's gonna have a campaign. It's gonna have its multiplayer. Battlefield was like, no, we're just doing multiplayer because that's our strength. We're not gonna do campaign because no one likes our campaigns. I would argue there's a few of them that are good, but in the majority, it's like you don't play Battlefield for a campaign. So you're already coming in as the $70 multiplayer only game in a market that also has a fully featured Call of Duty game and a Halo game whose Infinite beta was phenomenal. It was barely, like, you could barely see any issues for something that was a beta. That thing was so polished it could have launched the next day.
It could have, yeah.
And it's gonna be free to play.
And I kind of thought it was already out because of how many people were playing it.
Yeah, and how successful those betas are. So now Battlefield is at a massive disadvantage, just in tech alone. And when you're a month out, like, you put out a beta almost a month out, and you say that's an old build, that's bullshit. Remember Fallout 76? That had a beta. That was like, no, this is not representative of the final game. And then the game released, and it was even worse. And Battlefield brokenness, it's not, like, you already know what a broken Battlefield is. That was called Battlefield 4. That took almost a year before it recovered. And I feel you can get one redemption story, you cannot get 2. Because it's like, you get your one time to mess up and then you fix it and all that. Obviously, they also had Battlefront 2, but that's a different series. They eventually fixed that, but that wasn't a technical problem. That was a design philosophy that they had to remove with the loot boxes. So, yeah, like Battlefield 2042 is like, no, just
telling you
push
you're
it.
wrong, Alejandro. They're doing amazing stuff. They're putting it in the modern day, but they're like making it futuristic, and it's awesome. And you can like fly, and you'd be like only in Battlefield, and then you can like post a clip of some weird stuff happening, and like you just don't get it, Alejandro. It's too avant-garde for you. It's just too big brain.
Good thing I got the video clips. I got the receipts of how bad that thing is. So.
All right. Well, let me. Yeah. I'm gonna play devil's advocate, but I'm first gonna agree with you in a lot of ways. I think they can make something happen if they don't delay it. I don't think they will. I think they need this to come out.
Do they
wish?
Do they? They got FIFA. They got the sports games. They got things to help come out. They don't put out your flagship title just to say that you put it out, and then it's gonna be clowned on because you know people are not gonna be. They're not gonna be merciful. Not in this era that we live in, where you can share literally everything.
Yeah. And that's one point where I agree with you that people are getting a lot less okay with games launching in a broken state. They were able to do it for certain things. I mean, one of the most famous example is GTA Online when that launched. I'm sure y'all remember how that all played out. And I was there the first day. I made about 5 different characters, and they kept getting deleted. And I just wanted to get far into those missions. And we're back. We were just finishing talking about our experiences with the starting day of GTA Online. I remember that much, and how disastrous that was. Alejandro, you remember that, right?
Absolutely. I try, especially it was worse for me because I tried to play it on PS3 back at our college, and that college had internet at NAT3, so there was like no way.
That's even worse.
Yeah, there was like you were driving around, there's no one could connect, like like where your place. It was like this empty world. So
I remember just how disjointed it all was. I created, I think, 5 or 6 different characters and tried to get as far as I could until it would kick me out of it.
I will say though
But
that because you were mentioning how people were getting are more okay with like broken games and all that.
less
GTA
okay,
Online,
right?
yes, less okay. Like that was 2013 is notorious for being the year where so many broken games came out. SimCity, an EA game, like,
Yeah.
like notorious, like it killed the studio that made SimCity. Obviously GTA Online, but because it's Rockstar and GTA, people didn't make as much of a stink to it as you would expect. You would expect
And
it.
it wasn't the source of the game. You still had to fall back of GTA 5 itself.
Exactly. That was the excuse, especially many of the reviewers that showered that game with 10 out of 10s. They were like, yeah, this is not working, but the real package is what you originally bought, and that game is still phenomenal over here.
Right.
And the cherry on top of that year is Battlefield 4 when it launched the next gen, which is so funny. We're circling back almost 8 years into another modern Battlefield that's apparently too undercooked. And but I already made my spiel. So, what was your experience with Battlefield 2042?
So my first day was 50-50. The first first match that I had went pretty well. Everything behaved like it was supposed to. There's a couple jumping around, a couple of like trees falling over that would start glitching out if he killed an enemy. Sometimes he would do like the weird like ragdoll thing. But those were always things that like I would see them in Battlefields every once in a while, and they wouldn't really like break my immersion as much as like, Battlefield's being weird again. Okay. Because it would never really directly affect me. And then the second match that I started up, and it
Everything
didn't
went to
actually
crap.
even load. It was there was no bottom layer. There was like barely sky. There was flickering everywhere. There were just like ships floating in the distance, kind of like the Death Stranding BTs at the start of the game. They were just like, oh, it was weird.
One of my favorite glitches was when I spawned in one of the airplanes. The pilot and co-pilot players were like floating next to me when I looked to the left, even though that was not for. They were just chilling there. I was like, but the cockpit is over here. Why are you here? Just like that. It's like, oh man.
It's stuff like that would start to happen, and I still, for specifically Battlefield, I both have a soft spot because it's like my favorite type of first person shooter where it's like larger scope, larger feel. And when you do that, I understand there has to be things that you have to do to kind of mitigate the stress that it puts on your systems and their servers to do that. So like I played through all of Battlefield 3. I still remember the opening mission for Battlefield 3 being one of my favorite FPS experiences.
The train?
Because I don't remember what it was called, honestly.
Yeah, you're
it was
jumping
like
in a train, in a subway train. That's the first mission of Battlefield 3.
Then I don't know what it was like. You were a group in like Afghanistan.
That's the second mission. That's the second. Yeah, the second mission of Battlefield 3.
Why do I not remember that? Okay, well anyway, second mission is one of my favorite experiences because it's like this really slow, methodical like walk patrol through this Middle Eastern city, and like you get to use like single shot. Everything looked really good, even though like now it's probably aged pretty horribly. And I was enjoying the heck out of it. So we'll circle back to that moment later. But in multiplayer, it was just like absolute bonkers. It felt like I was a 10-year-old crashing little military action figures together. And that was my experience with that, and I was loving it.
What console? On what console do you play Battlefield
360.
360.
Definitely 360.
So you play the gimped versions. It's like you I don't think
Really?
you and I, yeah, because the PC version was the 64-player battles, the high frame rates, high particle effects, destructions. It's like Battlefield 3 was a next-gen game that got somehow made work in a very gimped way on PS3 and 360. That's why Battlefield 4 was like such a big deal in the launch of those consoles, because it was like, now everyone's gonna experience what it was like to play like a full-blown scale Battlefield on a console with like no compromises in frame rate and player counts. And unfortunately, because there was no way to beta test that, that's why that game launched horribly in Battlefield 4, that it was deleting saves. You couldn't even sometimes play the game. Like it was that broken for some people. I had a friend from college that he told me that he had the disc and the disc wouldn't like had the pop, and then he would always press X and it would always give him an error despite him having the disc
Wow.
and installed. It's like that game was a clusterfuck of complete glitches. It was like pages and pages of
So it sounds
bug
like I
it's
got
like-
lightning in a bottle
Yes.
when I started that game, and I'm pretty sure I got it like, if not 1 or 2, maybe like several years after it actually came out, because I was really late to that party.
Yeah, as long as you were later than September 2014, then nothing that game got crapped on you experienced, because it took them that
Okay.
long.
Then that probably, it took me a while. And then of course Battlefield 4, played through that. I played the single player for a while because I really enjoyed it. And I love when Battlefield does things that Battlefield does, like weird, very specific military cockpit scenes. Like that one whole scene where you're just sitting in the back seat and all you have to really do is hit like I think you have to fire the missiles and you have to fire the chaff, and that's like all you do the whole mission. But just how specific and drawn out it was, I'm just like, okay, this is weird and pretentious, but I like it. And then with every other experience with Battlefield has just been like middle of the road to like positive usually. So when this was coming out, I was like, it feels kind of like more of the same. I will say though, it's that strobe light effect needs to be fixed, or it's not even worth it. That is genuinely like dangerous to most people, if not all of them, because even for me, who doesn't suffer from epilepsy, it gives me like a massive headache, and it'll hurt. And then like if you just like you were in the parachutes, I was in a gunner's position in a tank, and it would do that wobbly thing,
Rubber
like,
banding. That's
so
rubber banding.
poorly. And I was just like, I can't see. I'm blinding myself here.
Do you also get the moment where the game would just look blue, like completely like miss the color? It would stay like blue until it like recovered color. It would also do that. I couldn't believe sometimes what I was seeing. I was like, am I again in Cyberpunk 2077 territory here with what I'm seeing here? Because like it's unacceptable. Like it totally is, and they shouldn't. Like they already know what it was like having to tarnish that series' name with Battlefield 4, and then having to do that again with 5, but in a different way, because they didn't fully feature that game, because they were so focused on fixing Battlefront 2 that then by the time Battlefield was coming out, I was like, oh crap, we forgot we're also releasing a game. Oh yeah, it's a service early access title, sold as a full price game, we'll fill it over time. It's like Battlefield, like only Battlefield 1 this last generation is the only one that launched and was like unanimously loved in all its many different aspects. It didn't have like the brouhaha of things. Like
despite the glitches that it did have, it usually held together pretty well. I mean, the worst was like balancing issues where like the beta for Battlefield 1, I remember people couldn't even touch the objective because you would find like these sniper positions and you could just go like across the map with the thing. And that was a weird experience, but it was one of the best that I had with Battlefield 1.
And
overall.
that was a design thing that you could kind of tweak afterwards. It wasn't technical.
It wasn't like deep in. I mean, you had like your glitches and your Zeppelin like going vertical and spinning fire and stuff like that. I'm sure y'all saw the highlights for those. And especially anytime you tried to interact with the horses at all was like a nightmare usually.
That was stuck in the environment.
Some of the vehicles would like freak out and like hit a spot that they weren't supposed to, and it would like catapult them. But that was like, that's just Battlefield being Battlefield. And you're like, there's a certain point that's a very blurred line between Battlefield being weird and being legitimately broken. I think some people are getting a little too into that side of like, oh, this has glitches, that means it's terrible. And I'm like, okay, guys, remember what we're talking about. But then there are also very important problems that need to be addressed as well within that.
I feel like if your game works from a technical level, physics messing up in multiplayer doesn't matter. Just look at Halo Infinite.
Exactly.
Hold on, guys.
I think the FBI is busting his door down.
I was like, what happened? Are the Chinese coming for you again?
Yeah, don't worry. You can go take care of what you need to, Zach.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So anyway.
So anyways, like if like a game is technically competent, weird glitches that happen from physics messing up and all that, those are the funny things, because it's not okay.
He forgot to mute himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Waiting and waiting.
And you might as well continue your thought.
Yes, like physics messing up is like sometimes that's where the fun of the game comes. Just look at Halo Infinite. Like some of the best things that I saw from that game is like people weaponizing the game's physics. That's what made Halo fun.
Exactly.
But if that game was all like, if that game had that, and on top of that had the rubber banding, the white strobe like effect that had no reason for it there being, it's like, I think that's kind of where I'm going to. It's like, I'd rather them take the time to eliminate that kind of technical this disaster that's there, because that's a little bit more, it's just, how can I say it? Yeah, it's like, I'd rather that be fixed and then leave all the weird Yankee crap, because then that's the kind of fun. It's not gonna prevent you from actually playing the game and probably harm yourself in the process. So yeah, that's
I agree, and I think that's a big part of it. One aspect I do want to gush about Battlefield in general that I definitely felt here is the prevalence of people that want to play it like Call of Duty is both a problem, but a weakness that can also be exploited. And there is not a game series around that I feel more like Snake from Metal Gear Solid 2 specifically than in Battlefield, because so many people are running around, running and gunning wildly, that if you use like your brain just a tiny amount, you get some amazing experiences. Where I was playing as the sentry character, and I put up a little spot, and apparently the little dog thing and the sentry gun have like ridiculous range with their guns, and you can wipe out like an entire team with stuff like that. And being able to just post up and watch people panic and run around like Tusken Raiders getting vaporized by the Mandalorian, it's a fantastic moment that I love, and I wish more games did it. But you almost can't do it unless you have the resources of EA. But I'm going to talk more about that in a minute when we switch games.
Yes, it's like, man, it's funny that you mentioned that people play it almost like Call of Duty, because it even has some almost yearly similarities to Warzone, like going from like aiming and then pressing the reload button and you're still aiming while reloading. They straight up copied that from like Call of Duty. There's like you're able to do the slide, so I can see why some people would rather try to play it that way, and that's going to be a very massive disadvantage because the time to kill a Battlefield is way different. I will say this, the 128 player matches, very cool in concept, not as fun in execution. I feel like they have almost destabilized the game almost from a balance perspective, where now because the maps are even bigger, it's gonna like push the meta more into the sniper game. And also the fact that the class system is sometimes very hard to like differentiate, and at times like the game will glitch out and not tell me that I'm looking at an enemy or a friend. You know that if you're looking at an enemy, you will have like a red thing if you're staring at it. So sometimes I would be shooting at my teams, oh yeah, no, that's, oh yeah, why didn't it show the blue before? So it not only has those, it has some weird design choices that they've made that before this beta, I was like, yeah, Battlefield's gonna cream. It's gonna like grab the mop and just slam Vanguard into it, because that's how it looked. After this beta, I was like, Call of Duty must be like, like literally, because at the very least their thing worked. Obviously, right now they have to. This is the test now. Well, this sort of Damocles that is, or Damocles, I don't know how you say it. Damocles. That is the Damocles, however, whatever. That constant threat that is the Activision lawsuit, that it's still ongoing. More things are happening to that thing. Will that affect Vanguard? Will enough people like put two and two together? I mean, they went as far as eliminating all Activision logos out of any promo material for Call of Duty. So they know it's serious. Will that be enough? Because Call of Duty is so entrenched. But the only way that you can pull things away from Call of Duty is if your competition is solid, rock solid. Twice now has EA found like had an opening. First it was Battlefield 4. Now it's 2042. Battlefield 4 like completely missed the mark at launch when it could have mattered. And now with this one, now we know where the kind of shape this game is. It was allegedly an old build. That excuse of old builds like doesn't fly for me, because so many times people make that excuse and the game is just as broken when it launches. It's like the only time you can believe a beta is an old build is if you have at least 6 month lead time, not a month. So
True.
I would say beware. I'm gonna wait and hear what the people are actually still buying Battlefield say. That will be the final tale if they actually fix all these little issues. But as of right now, I ain't buying that game. I'm out.
I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm gonna be picking it up anyway.
Yeah, you're stuck either way.
Honestly, this is gonna be a Cyberpunk situation all over again for me.
I feel bad for you because
I'm
like
every year around this time I am cursed.
Yeah. Because anyway. we always talk about a certain someone that used to be part of our group that I always laughed at every thing that he was always excited for, always like face planning in itself until he finally broke that curse. I don't want that for you because I like you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it also, it's funny because I have receipts of that December 10th to December 18th process before it all let. Yeah. So just beware.
Some of it I will still stand by. And I know I'm going to be a lot gentler to this game than I should be. As long as they take away the strobing lights.
That's going to be enough. That's going to be enough, I tell you.
Maybe the desync, that's usually it's still sometimes a problem anyway, but I could live with it as long as like they don't wipe progression on accident and they fix the strobing. I could live with it. And I will have a lot of fun because I played like 3 or 4 solid days of that and not much else because it was just so fun to jump through. And then speaking of fun and the lack thereof, let's talk about Hell Let Loose.
Yeah.
So Alejandro,
I did play it. I played it, and that's the quickest I uninstalled the game because it's like, I'm not for this. I'm out. Go for it.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too long about it, but I do want to give it a little respect because I realize the specific type of game that is. They go for a very specific feel, and that is that I guess I'll tell a story about this. 2 of my friends, their names are Paul also and Jake. I play Rainbow Six with them back in the day.
Paul? Are you kidding
me?
No,
I said Paul and Jake.
But I just think about it. It's like you have a Jake Paul.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. Jake Paul. No relation to the singular person of the similar name. So I play with Rainbow Six Siege with them all the time, and then we kind of dropped off on that because Siege is kind of crazy. They played that previously, and they said, all right, Paul, have you played Hell Let Loose yet? And I join up with them, and I'm seeing the menu for the first time, and I'm like, no, I've never touched this. And he's like, is your wife near you? And I was like, why? Yeah, she's over there. He's like, kiss her goodbye. You're going to war. You are going to be terrified. You're going to die, and it's going to be horrible.
That is a one-shot kills, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. And so I join in, and it is like a foggy French landscape in the middle of a forest, like Battle of Bulge. And it is just like we get to the front line where kind of our little markers end on our team, and then it's just blackness of like nondescript forestry. And I was like, all right, where's the enemy? And they're like, they're in the forest. That's you're looking at them right now. You just can't see them. And sure enough, going in there, you start to like hear shots ring out past you. I watched a guy right in front of me just get domed and like the splatter hit my camera. And I was like, ah! It was legitimately terrifying, especially like when you start hearing machine gun fire and like you see shadows moving behind the trees and stuff. And there was a point later on that I was crawling through this field, and I looked to my left behind a small outcropping of a rock as another enemy that had done the exact same thing, crawling across the field. And we have this like horrifying moment where we look at each other like the moment in Saving Private Ryan, and I kill him. And I swear I felt like a high like nothing else than in that moment because of how wildly realistic and authentic it felt to like a World War II experience. It's so specifically made, and I respect it, but I know I cannot play it for very long, or at all alone.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I played that alone with like letting myself matchmate, and then like I
Yeah.
have these people that I think were from France speaking French, so
Really?
I couldn't understand what they were doing. So I was like, okay, so I won't be able to chat with this. It spawns me like very far from where they are.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do I really have to like take the trek all the way where they are?
No.
And the movement of this game is so
It's
slow,
very clunky.
very slow. That is like, and the funny thing is that visually it almost presents itself as like a Call of Duty, almost like modern, like in the way like lighting is made, like the way your weapon, the way you hold your weapon is like, yeah, it's like it's taking a lot of cues from that series. But obviously it's a little bit more tactical. I feel I would have had more fun had I played it like with you or someone else, someone to like really get into it. I think it's like a simulator, like almost
Yes.
like World War II simulation.
It is
almost.
complete simulation, probably the most simulation I've seen since I played Arma 3, to give
So,
you like perspective. So, and that's like full on just the most detailed I've ever seen. At least for console, seeing something like that on a console was crazy enough as it was.
for a 2-year-old game, by the way.
Yeah.
That game came out in 2019
And
on
then
PC.
I figured out how it actually works, and that the like trickle down communication system in that game is both from like you have your person at the top who's the commander, and they're doing the strategy side. So there's one person deciding all of this. Within that, each of your squads has one person called an officer. They have a special voice chat with other officers in the other squads. So they get the orders from the commander, they talk with all the other officers to coordinate, and then you have to switch vocal channels to your little squad to tell your buddies what to do. And that's how it's supposed to work. And it feels crazy when it works, because I played as an officer and I was listening in on them like, all right, we're flanking around the right, we're going over here, you see an enemy unit behind this thing, and they're taking cover behind the ruined tank. And I was like, am I in World War II now? I'm freaking out. But like they communicate really well, and they take it super seriously. But like it's not my game, and I cannot touch it unless I have at least like 3 guys with me. But it is I'll give them respect for what it is. I think that's the most authentic experience for like anything World War II shooter wise that I've ever seen. So that was what I had with that. And the last thing I wanted to mention briefly was Insurgency Sandstorm. Sounds like a very generic title, but I want to ask either of y'all, did you play the original Rainbow Six game, or maybe like Vegas or something like that?
Yeah, Rainbow, the original Rainbow Six 3 and Vegas. Right.
Okay,
And
Zach,
Vegas
did
2.
you play any of that?
I did not.
Cool. I wouldn't expect you to, but I wanted to just give you that opportunity. This is the Anton ego moment I had with Ratatouille from it's playing Insurgency Sandstorm, flashing back to the original Rainbow Six. This game blends the concept of like modern first-person shooter aspects and mechanics and heavy tactics. The concept being like there's only 2 things you can do, is either playing against players or playing against AI. And just like how you had like your Rainbow Six Vegas, Alejandro, where you had an area that you had to clear out, you would go like room to room to room, very methodically. That's how the co-op aspect plays out. That's what I played the most. And it's like you get your loadout, you mess with all that stuff. It's not really about progressing or unlocking things. And you have 7 other of your human characters, and you make your way from one point to the next, kind of taking objectives as you go. And it's like just a city, and you have to decide how you approach through these areas, how you clear it out, what you got.
Where do you play this?
I'm playing it on PS5 now. It just came out on console.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to know. Yeah.
Right. So it came out for PS4, but with like a couple visual updates on the 5, and then they have it on PC. But anyway, so just the idea of like slowly making your way through. There's no like hit markers when you hit an enemy. Hey, you can die in 1 shot to the head, a couple shots to the body, and there's friendly fire, obviously, so you can just kill all of your teammates on accident if you're not careful. But just the feel of like OG Rainbow Six, picking an operator and moving through like a city or a building or whatever it is, was like a weird nostalgic feel hit my soul in that moment, and I'm very glad I picked it up, and I want to keep playing it all the time. But yeah, so that was just a really cool little surprise that I didn't expect, to have a remembrance to my old days playing that game.
And we barely get those kind of games either way. No.
Never. And they hardly ever survive on console anyway. So the fact that it's like already got a really solid following, both with Hell Let Loose and now Insurgency Sandstorm, it's like a very strange shift to like this more tactical feel of like, as maybe gamers are getting older, the Call of Duties and the Fortnites aren't really doing it for them as much, and they require something a little different, and I think there's more opportunities for that now than ever, and that's
Hey, maybe
really happy to me.
maybe Ghost Recon Frontline will be that kind of hardcore. Nah, it won't.
I don't think it will. I want to believe. But yeah, so that's everything that I've been playing. Alejandro, I know you didn't write down your stuff. What have you been playing?
So I obviously went on that rant over Battlefield 2042, so I don't need to reiterate that. To do my due diligence to follow up over last week's divisive discussion over this particular demo. Before it was removed, I went back to the Stranger of Paradise demo and put it in the difficulty that you play it. I will say this. You do have a point about the enemies taking maybe a little too much to just constantly wail at them, but this is where it clicked for me. This is a Final Fantasy game where you have to consider everything with every enemy that you fight, and you're not supposed to play it like that meatball. That's what the casual story difficulty that I told you to play it for, play it on.
You told me that after I'd already picked action, which I would assume action means I'm going to be focusing on the action, you know.
And I will say this, as a feedback for them, they should rename that, because that's the thing. This is a Final Fantasy game, but it's also Souls-like. You're not supposed to play it as an action game. This is supposed to be very methodical with everything you have at your disposal,
which is not at all what you think when you look at every part of this game.
No, not at all. But then, like, the way that I went back and I remember how combat was in Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you're just wailing at enemies, pressing square, their health goes so low, it doesn't feel satisfying. But then when you mix it with the combos that you fill up with your AP, in this case the purple thing was AP, that's when you would do the combos that you can actually set up. I had this amazing R1 R2 combo that was like two slash and then jumps hard and slams it like it was Cloud. That's how I wail a bunch of enemies in this difficulty. The fireballs, you do the whole circle thing, and by the way, you can always hold circle as long as you have your meter at the bottom fill up, and like as long as it's not empty, you can always be holding circle. When you hit something, you're not gonna lose health. You're only gonna lose health if you get hit when you do this, because you always do like a weird movement. You throw the fireballs back to the fireballs to overfill them. It like you use kind of like that logic of like, it wouldn't make sense to throw fireballs to them, but no, in this game it does, because it's not about damaging, it's about filling their stagger. So you can just go there and do the classic mega punch that it's such a meme with this with Jack the character. And Chaos was hard, I'll give you that. Like Chaos was really tough, but I still beat it. And then it made me realize, it's like, if you play this game in the action difficulty, you have to play it thinking about it as a Final Fantasy game. If you just want to wail at enemies, you play it on casual. I hate that you didn't play this on casual, because that's what I played it on. And you brought all this idea of everything that I played in that easy difficulty, that then when none of that popped up in normal, that's where you struggle. But it kind of helped me. It was good that you had that experience, because it made me approach it in a more methodical level, and how important it is for you to be a mage and have that close, because you have all the magics available to you. So Paul, you suck at games.
I guess so.
I was about to say, this is just Alejandro calling Paul a casual.
It was a very long, several week process of him breaking me down, finally saying, away.
Because I put the two and two together with your experience with hard difficulty God of War, and then I realized that it's like, you are the
worst gamer.
Not worst player. You're the kind of gamer that is like, don't think much about the strategy. You're just about trying to kill enemies as quick as possible. And if the time to kill is not that, then you're struggling. Because like I mentioned with God of War, it's like, you need to be more strategic with, either you're using your axe for this enemy, or you just put it in your hands, or using your boy. So just keep that in mind. And if you just want to wail, just be accepted and put it on easier difficulty if that's how you want to play it.
Yeah,
it feels almost condescending.
I would say that is slander, sir. I played Disco Elysium. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
a game
with
I
no
never
combat,
haven't touched. But I agree for the most part. I think I can be strategic, but I think I need to trick my brain into it from the start.
You have to know what you're going into. You have to know that that's the kind of game that you're going into.
I can't be advertised as this heavy action DMC like game, and then they say, oh no, you've got to like manage all of your equipment, your MP, and all of the little details of things if you're going to even stand a chance on the normal difficulty. So if I had known that going into it, I probably would have treated it a lot differently. And I would have probably started off with like, all right, we're going to manage our stuff. We're going to get this right. We're going to keep things together, and it's going to go great.
Yeah.
And I probably would have burned through it.
Yeah.
But
I'll say this, even having played on action thing, if I get that game, I'm playing on casual. I'm still playing it that way because I've mentioned before.
It feels like it's meant to be like that.
Yeah. Especially the way the character presents itself as this badass mofo. Like, you want to play it as someone that's just gonna, like, of course you're gonna keep saying, I'm here to kill chaos. I only have one thing. I only know one thing. I'm gonna kill chaos. I'm here in the Shrine of Chaos. Like, you think of that. I was like, yeah, you just want this dude to be wailing like a hunter.
He sounds like a meathead.
Yeah.
He looks like a meathead. He acts like a meathead. He literally hears a Kingdom Hearts description of a character, and then he says BS and plays Linkin Park. Like, that is the most. I am going to ignore all strategy and just beat things up. So, like, that's almost like, I know the phrase gets thrown around a lot, but the idea of ludonarrative dissonance, where
it's heavy in this one.
Games set you up in a certain way to play based on the character, because, like, in the end, you're supposed to try playing as the character. But then when they say all of that, and then they give you the mechanics of like a city builder practically, then it just feels a little weird. I know I'm being a little dramatic about it,
but you have a point. There is that little narrative dissonance with the way that character is portrayed as what he wants to do versus the kind of game they expect you to play at its like base normal difficulty. So like from that perspective, I get it. But it's about it's also when you get it, you kind of have to like shift and be like, okay, let's try some stuff. It feels like you kept trying playing it that way and didn't quite grasp it.
I guess it's like I was trying to play God of War, but instead it was Dragon Age Inquisition. And I think that's actually a better description of how how the combat is. Like, there's a little bit more to it. Oh, okay, we're good. I thought I lost you for a sec.
Oh no.
But yeah, so I think if like I said, if people understand that process, I think it would work out a little better for that. Did you play anything else?
I've been like, as a personal project, I have been playing through all the Call of Duties campaigns again because I want.
Do you want to talk at all about that experience, or did you want to?
I want to save it. I kind of want to save it because I love to for that eventually whenever I'm done with them to be a topic. Yeah, and you just kind of discuss it. I would say that the last one I just finished is Black Ops 3, so I'm now into Infinite Warfare. So having finished already Modern Warfare 2019 and Black Ops Cold War this year again, I only have 2 more left, Infinite and World War II, and then I'm gonna compile a list of those. I will say some games are better than I remember, some a little worse, and I can't wait to discuss more. But Paul, that's all I've been playing. So.
And that's all I've been playing, and that's all Zach's been playing. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for all this. If you are listening to the segmented portion of this, we'll be switching over to the topic right now.
Yes.
And for any of you that have not been finished, we now have our topic to discuss. Gentlemen,
so quick. So this means that we're gonna post all 3 separate now.
I threw that in there just in case.
Okay,
but
let's go.
That was just in case this goes on for a while. But keep in mind, you can answer this as long or short as you feel.
Yes.
The topic for today, gentlemen, is to first think of a friend that you know that you're very close to who is not into games right now. Think of it for a second. Now, picture that person. What game would you have them play in order to get them into gaming, and why? Think about it for a second. I'm going to go first while y'all kind of do that, just to give you an idea. And this can, there's no real wrong answers for this. It can be any sort of type of person and a game specifically for them for a specific reason. That's kind of what I'm going for. For me, I would probably pick my friend Chase. He is a very round and lovely person that plays a lot of music, no gaming whatsoever. I think I could get him to play something like Breath of the Wild in a very slow process, allowing him to like get the vibe of it, or something like Abzu or Journey. And that's kind of why I would think of those two. Did anything y'all have yet?
Yes, my friend JJ, he has slowly started trying to get into games, but I would like him to get into something deeper, as trying to get into the moment of knowing how controls work. And I think a game that slowly teaches you things are Telltale games. Like, I would have him play Telltale The Walking Dead.
Okay.
Just as a way to like get immersed in a story while slowly getting into grasp with how some controls work, because obviously that game doesn't require too much like double stick movement, and trying to get a hang of double stick is probably the biggest hurdle for some of modern gaming. Like, some people have to either be doing moving one stick, stop, move the other one. It's like we are at the point where we can grab a controller and do both sticks at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's like that comes as that's second nature to us. So I feel those kind of games that don't require that kind of movement would be good ones to do, and then maybe move into maybe a platformer like Crash Bandicoot that doesn't have the like right stick movement at all. But I will have him play Crash 2, because Crash Bandicoot 1 is a hell of a tough game, and I wouldn't want to put anyone through that. So
that's fair.
So Crash and Telltale Walking Dead would be mine to kind of slowly start immersing them. Breath of the Wild, I admire your Breath of the Wild, but also remember Breath of the Wild is a tough game.
As soon as I said it, I realized I'm gonna need to definitely step back from something like that. And that's where I said Abzu or Journey. That would be a lot better of an answer, because like you can use the right stick, but it's not really required outside of like convenience for those.
Especially in Journey. Journey is like so good at like properly framing itself, and you can obviously like reframe yourself, but it always frames it showing you where to go. And it's such its art is so evocative. Zach, what about you?
So I can tell you exactly what not game to start them with, and that is Portal 2. Because you think that's a fun game, it's just a puzzle game. And then you realize if you don't know how to use double stick, like Alejandro said, and you don't really know how physics in video games work, it's really confusing for someone's first game.
That game makes you feel like an idiot when you figure it out. Like, I don't know what else.
I struggled with that game too myself. So, all right, well, that's a good preamble. What you got for us then?
So, I don't really play any games that don't use double stick, so I'm gonna have to suggest a game that uses a double stick, and I think It Takes Two is a pretty easy game. It's very forgiving. It's just a straightforward platformer. There's not a whole lot of puzzling, but there's a little bit, and it kind of gets the brain to think how video game puzzles work. And also, you get to see their reaction to all the dark, crazy things that happen in that game.
Yeah, because you play as co-op. Like that would be a thing. Like, you would take someone that doesn't play games and you play it with them, and you're kind of with them also as they go through that. So
that's actually exactly what happened to me with we haven't finished it yet, but we've been working through It Takes Two as well. And one of the things that we struggled with the most was the toolbox boss, where you have to, one of you has to throw the nails into the wooden arms when it swings its arm down, and the other one has to use the hammer to swing along those nails to do damage to it. And of course, like, you need to have some solid coordination for both of y'all, but I think that one of the characters requires less of it than the other. I think it's usually the girl, but then like sometimes she requires it as well, but it like pushes them enough to teach those, like Zach was saying, fundamentals of gaming, where both like puzzles, platforming, and action, to understand what kind of buttons are used whenever you're doing certain things. And then like it doesn't really require the right stick all that much, because most of whatever you're doing is like in the direction you're moving, and then if you kind of move the other direction, it'll kind of start to like shift you anyway. And it's zoomed out enough that it's not like going to kill you most of the time if you don't do that.
I want to add two more games for that I would give to someone. Mario 64 and Super Mario Galaxy. Two games that their cameras are like always super framed in a specific way.
Yeah.
And the only adjustment you can do is just a tap of the thing. So no need to always I wouldn't recommend Mario Sunshine because that game uses the camera a lot. And the camera of that game is a mess.
It is.
So those two games I think are so good at that, of like just giving you the scenario that in a very specific frame. So yeah, those would be my games.
Another I'm popping up with would be Little Nightmares, Limbo, or Inside. If you really want like the creepy factor, especially since we're in Halloween time, those three are like all 2D platformers, usually pretty good with like only giving you one puzzle at a time to kind of solve, and they're just master classes of atmosphere. And even if you die in certain things, it's usually not too difficult to figure out what they want you to do. So I think I would add those to the list as well, depending on the person. But so y'all have any other suggestions? But besides that, it's pretty much it.
I haven't tested this, but I heard that if you play Spider-Man with all the accessibility options like turned on, it's a really good way to immerse yourself in a bigger budget kind of game. I heard many people love using accessibility for that one. So
I kind of want to look into that out of curiosity than anything else, just because I want to see what that would do. I don't think I would suggest Last of Us 2 simply because of what
that
it does.
game's a mess. Yeah, exactly.
I love the accessibility that it does do. So I do hope that it just continues with cascading effect of like other companies saying, hey, we're going to also give these opportunities for people. And I've loved it. Like even just instead of mashing the button, I can like hold it or just tap it once and not get shamed because sometimes carpal tunnel's a thing, and I don't want to destroy my wrists.
Yeah.
But in the end, gentlemen, that is the end of my topic. I appreciate you indulging me in that, and I feel like that's one of the questions that if you sit around for long enough, we could just keep coming up with more and more suggestions, and it just continues cascading into more discussion. But I think we're good for that. So Alejandro, Zach, the boy wonder, and the single greatest inspiration for Lady Gaga I can think of, I appreciate y'all joining me for this episode that I am absolutely in charge of for one reason, and that's because I'm amazing.
Okay.
Gentlemen, it's been great talking to y'all.
Yeah, it's the same to you. And hopefully, Zach, you can come in next week also, because we might have another guy come talk in for what his experience was with Metroid, which I still haven't played. So
me neither.
Same.
So at least there should be someone that at least we know has played it and has something to say about it, because I'm waiting until a little later to get that one, which I've just heard nothing but good praises for. So
which reminds me, actually, gentlemen, where can they find you on social media? Zach, let's go with you first.
Okay, I'm Zachity on everything. That's Zachithy.
Very easy.
All right. And Alejandro, where do they find you?
They can find me on twitch.tv/theslayergiant, where you can watch live when we play through the Halo series. That then those playthroughs are uploaded at XCape Media YouTube. Then you can also find me at _Dorsegovia on Twitter, Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, and my written content at thecriticalcorner.com.
And as always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on YouTube and Twitter, and AngelSword21 on Twitch. However, you will most likely be seeing me on the XCape Media channel alongside this dude over here, getting shot in the back of the head for laughs.
Yes, or getting just meleeed. Just to
getting meleeed, getting shot by a scorpion, taking my shotgun and running up an elevator with it so I can't go back. There's going to be memes about that one day when we're famous. It's going to be
Mhm.
Paul pining after his shotgun all the time. So, as always, everybody, thank y'all for joining us, and I hope to see y'all next time. And press X
To play.
Good night, everyone. Adios.
Hasta
Good night.
luego.